Hey everybody, let's get into a brand new director's commentary. Let's see, we're getting close to the end here. This is a real intriguing one for me. It features, rest in peace, Sonya Zohar, and also my good friend Randy Brisson. And we're kind of all over the map on this one. But before we do, just a quick reminder that absolutely the Question of Bigfoot, the brand new film that I'm working on to produce right now, is launching because of the very successful Kickstarter campaign, thanks to all of you. If you haven't yet joined in as a funder, all you have to do is pledge $1. $1 and you get all of the information. There's going to be some exclusive draws later. Go ahead, Luke. Show them the promo.
This was scary, exhilarating, and makes you doubt everything you ever learned that's real and unreal.
Back in 2014, I began work on a 10-part documentary series on the subject of Bigfoot. It took me places I did not expect to go, and it gave me a perspective I did not expect to have. Well, it's been 10 years, and a lot of questions still remain. Join me and help me to answer the litany of questions hanging over the phenomenon known as Bigfoot.
Walking up, I could see that there was something there. As I got closer, it stood up.
I know there's something there. I'm a lot more leery when I go out. I mean, really leery.
And I seen this humongous arm reach right in.
One of the dogs got killed, twisted, and torn in two.
What the heck have I heard when I've been out in the wilderness on so many different occasions? When I want answers, I go after them. My new documentary film, The Question of Bigfoot, will attempt to answer all of the skeptics' burning questions. Why don't we see one on a trail cam? Where are the bones? Have they ever been hit by a car? Why haven't we captured one? Is there enough room out there in the wilderness for them to exist? Are they real or are they not? I can't do this without you. So take a look at all of the rewards within this Kickstarter campaign and help me to produce The Question of Bigfoot. So it's not too late to pledge now and be part of all this because it just stays running. Every penny is going to be going on screen, as we say in the business. It's going on screen when it comes to the making of this film, The Question of Bigfoot. I'm really getting excited. I've already started. I've done one interview with Tom Powell. Got another interview coming up very soon, and some expeditions happening as well. So a lot's going to happen with this documentary, and it's going to go places that other documentaries won't go. And I'm really looking forward to bringing this to you. So jump on that Kickstarter campaign. If you can pledge $1, you're in. As always, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to my music YouTube channel, subscribe to my Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and you'll be up and sign on to the newsletter, and you'll be up on all of the news that's coming your way when it comes to whatever it is I'm doing, if you care. And one of those things I'm doing pretty soon is actually a concert. If you're seeing this before late April of 2025, then I'm about to do a concert at the Hive in Grants Pass, which is an acoustic version of my Mother Earth concert series. So I'm really excited to bring that. And I've got some world-class players playing with me on that one, but it's all acoustic. Okay, shall we get into this? Let's just get started. Away we go. Survivorman Bigfoot.
Here's the idea I want to get across. If you take a look at all of the beliefs surrounding Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, you name it, what you get is a scale. Now, over here on this side are the researchers who believe it's an ape. It's Gigantopithecus. Over here, you've got aliens Once you get right into the middle of it, what you have is a battleground. And people are going at it like this the whole time. This group thinks that this side is off their rocker. This group thinks that this side is completely missing things. So there's the broad spectrum, this big scale, the scale that is Bigfoot. My job is not to say it's an alien or it's a Gigantopithecus. My job is to get people to bring me into these areas, to let me experience what they experience, to see what can happen, and to keep an open mind to all possibilities. You don't need those thousands of casted footprints to be real. You only actually need one of them to be real, to then say that the species exists at all, whatever it might be.
So I actually remember being kind of excited about giving that little, it was not a rant, just that little monologue there, because that is where I was landing after a whole year almost, and all these different researchers and people that I'd been working with, and learning so much, mostly about the people, but also having some really crazy experiences, and some experiences that made me really think twice about stuff. I still landed looking at this from the bigger picture of the researchers themselves. In The Question of Bigfoot, the new film that I'm doing, I'm not going to do that. I would certainly be interviewing a lot of people, but I'm not, interested on pointing that out again. We already know that there is a wide spectrum of understanding and belief system within the world of Bigfoot researchers, as I just explained there. So I'll be going at it a little differently for The Question of Bigfoot, but let's keep watching.
I'm back on the west coast of Canada, looking for clues and hoping for answers. If they do exist, they can only have survived alongside our species without being killed off or dominated by being far more elusive than we can readily understand or are even willing to. But this possibility requires the mind to stretch beyond its accustomed conception of the forest and its inhabitants. And to do that, I'm gonna have to try some new methods.
What seems to be happening a lot is I'm meeting up with people who come at it from a more spiritual angle. For them, it's about connecting with a species that has a level of intellect, ability, spirituality that takes it to a different place. That's the thing with all these inroads into the subject matter, whether it's purely biological, searching for an ape that walks upright, or really on the other far side of things, figuring they're connected to the star people or the aliens, or somewhere down the middle where they're biological but they're also spiritual and intelligent. It's an interesting way to look at the subject matter.
If you look at it more like silos rather than a spectrum, you have the silo that it is everyone who believes that it is an incredibly intelligent hominid type species, perhaps Gigantopithecus, perhaps Homo erectus, perhaps the Nephilim. I don't know, just giants, giant hairy creatures that live on the earth that have developed a successful way through their intelligence of remaining elusive and hidden. And not so hidden, by the way, if you think about the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of reports of them, along with folklore and stories. So that's number one. Number two, there's a silo of people who are very spiritual about it and look at it as a matter of spirituality, why they are. That intrigued me, by the way, why are they, sort of thing. And what do they mean? What do they represent? What does a relationship with them represent or mean? And what does their relationship to the planet versus ours mean? And then the third silo is the silo of portal travelers, dimension travelers, aliens, connected to alien species, that sort of thing. And really, I'm being a little overly general at the moment, but that, for anybody who's uninitiated, that kind of gives you the three main silos of how people look at what this species might be.
Sonya Zohar and Randy Brisson are two Sasquatch advocates that don't give the matter a second thought. They don't struggle intellectually with the concept that this species may come with some kind of inherent spirituality, even possessing mental and physical abilities far beyond what mainstream science considers normal. But then, what's normal when it comes to Sasquatch? Or to ponder more deeply, What's normal, period? Randy, Sonya, and almost the entirety of the Aboriginal perspective don't stop at Sasquatch being a big, upright walking ape. They already know it's capable of a lot more than just throwing rocks and disappearing behind trees. Many so-called habituators, like Randy, attempt to talk to their Sasquatch visitors indirectly through objects. They start their attempts at connecting to Sasquatch not by leaving bait, but by giving gifts. And on many occasions, as it is with this twisted twig, they're left with gifts in return. With this gentle approach, it would seem that lessening potential exposure anxiety in whatever is out there will help to achieve communication. This is done by using small objects in digestible small doses. Can a purely instinctual animal communicate through gift exchanges?
You know, I can only imagine that if you're out in the wilderness hiking around and you have no knowledge or care or anything about when it comes to the Sasquatch phenomenon, and you come across this, you'd be like, okay, I'm a little freaked out right now. Is there like some sort of weird ceremony going on? And indeed, there is kind of a ceremony going on. This whole gift-giving thing, it's really interesting. Because what I mentioned there is also a group of Bigfoot researchers who would be called habituators, meaning that they focus on one place and they make it a habitual experience for the Sasquatch they believe are out there to connect with them. And there's this gift giving and this reciprocal gift giving. Certainly Scott Carpenter would very much be big on that. Randy was introduced to me by David Paulides, famous from the Missing 411 books. And real wonderful, gentle spirit, nice man, very, very intelligent. And then Sonya Zohar, I can't remember how I got in touch. Somebody passed me on to Sonya Zohar, a beautiful, wonderful human being who sadly has since passed due to cancer. But working with her in this situation was kind of otherworldly. I don't know if you know anybody like this. I've actually known a couple of people now, happen to be women, who can connect directly with nature in ways that you're going, oh, come on, that's unreal. I watch Sonya, actually you go online, you can see her, she calls in a butterfly. I mean, she calls a butterfly in from the other side of her yard. And I know another woman who can walk out into a field of deer and the deer will just come to her. This happens. And Sonya was one of those wonderful, gentle, mystical spirits that connected with nature in a very profound way. So.
These are still images of Randy's. Over the years, he's documented hundreds of odd occurrences. Strangely twisted and decorated branches. Elk limbs left hanging in trees. Numerous tracks. And this face, this image peering out from behind a stump. You can add all these to the 10,000 other images collected from around the world.
Let's go with this. So people might want to call that a blob squatch. It's actually better than a blob squatch. That's a nickname, by the way, that a lot of researchers give for the blurry photo. This one's obviously a lot better than that. But for the naysayers, I'll just say this. People will look at that and sort of giggle and snicker, but how do you know what they're supposed to look like? And the fact of the matter is, the differences in their appearances is widely spoken of over thousands of years, from them being blonde and red and black, and even some that are sort of white, almost you might say albino. And so, who's to say, right? The only other option here is that Randy faked this, right? This is a guy who spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, kind of like a Todd Standing, out in the wilderness connecting to Sasquatch. So if he's faked this, then the joke's kind of on him, because of all the time he spent out there. It would be kind of a big old waste other than a beautiful time spent in nature. So you often do have to ponder the reasoning for somebody to do something and really, put down, is faking it one of their reasons? Could that be a reason? Randy Brisson. it wouldn't serve him to fake this stuff. He doesn't make a penny off of it. So what can happen there? Sorry, I went ahead, but Luke, just go right back to that face again. Pareidolia. Oh, I always screw this one up. Pareidolia. Someone's going to correct me. I apologize. It's not on the top of my brain for some reason. It must be the wine. And that is seeing a human face in anything, in rocks, in trees, in moss, in hillsides sort of thing. But with an image like that of Randy's, those ones are a little harder to put down to pareidolia. Certainly Todd Stanning's images, also a little harder to put down to you call it delusion, really. You're just spotting faces and things. But the blob squatches, that's the problem, right, is the blob squatches. Ones is like, okay, I can't see it. Let me draw it in there so you see. Okay, now I can see it. Well, power of suggestion and the rest of it, right? So it's a pretty impressive one, actually.
One day I was here, just like after 2 years of doing it, slowly let me come down, they go back up. Slowly come down, you know what I mean? They didn't trust me at first. And one day right here, I'm just about to walk up, and there's one there and two sitting over there.
Even when Randy does leave out food, he prefers to make things difficult for known animals such as bears or raccoons. Jars of salmon are left in such a way that only hands can open.
Sonya believes it's important to start leaving very intricate gifts that of all natural substances, handmade crafts, things like that. And she's been doing that, and they disappear. What out in the wilderness takes away a trinket? Well, squirrels do.
Tracking is all about noticing subtle changes in the environment.
And that's the tricky thing. I admitted, after I did this series, and I was home here, actually, in Canada, I tried a gift-giving thing just outside my door, basically, with marbles. There's a lot of guys who use these colored stones. And if you think about it, if this species exists and all that sort of thing, even with great intelligence to be able to remain elusive and hidden, it still will have some simplicity and simple fascinations to it. So perhaps things such as marbles and other colored trinkets and so on interest them. Or perhaps they recognize the intention, and it is this reciprocal gift-giving thing. I definitely had those marbles moved around and repositioned. I think what I noticed mostly was every time I came back to them, I think I put out 6 or 7, and every time I come back there would only be 3. Every time. And it would always be 2 and 1, 2 and 1. Now, simple conjecture is that, are they trying to tell me there's 2 of them and the other one is me? Right? That's the kind of thinking that happens, and you got to be careful about that. But I can tell you it kept happening. And that makes it, when there's consistency, it's less likely that it's crows or squirrels or birds of some sort that are messing with you. And I always found the other marbles, by the way, they would just be pushed off. So yeah, something very normal, a mink or something, could have pushed them off. But as they say, several times, I think at least 6 or 7 times, it was always 2 and 1, 2 and 1 that were left.
And then ruling out the probable causes, and that includes humans.
So here's, what you might want to call a tree break, except you can clearly see the axe marks. There's so much pop culture surrounding the subject of Bigfoot to get this joke effect. You get teenagers and people doing hoaxes. Now that they hear about tree breaks and structures, you're going to probably have all kinds of hoax tree breaks all over the place, wherever the public can easily get to, and lining them up and, in an attempt to freak out girlfriends and things like that,
So why not try my own hoax? Make my own set of tracks in an attempt to trick the experts? Well, to do that, I'll need to go to the experts, special effects designers, in Hollywood, California.
This was obviously going to be fun for me. A chance to go and let's make some fake tracks. Let's see what we can do with this, and then cast them, and then, run them by an expert sort of thing. This is when the show got a lot of fun for me.
I was surprised to learn that acquiring a Bigfoot suit is easier than I thought. Matt and Roy.
Well, it's easier now. Wasn't so easy in I think it was 67 when the Patterson film was shot, or any throughout the 60s, early 70s, and in the 50s. Wasn't so easy to get a very realistic Bigfoot suit. Now, unfortunately, it is. It's easy to do everything, any kind of fakery. It's pretty simple to do it, including the footage and tracks and everything.
Roy, at Soda Productions, one of the best in the business, explained to me that there have been dozens of B movies made about Bigfoot in Hollywood. And all of those expensively custom-designed suits are still in existence. And you can rent them for $50.
I'm out to say, how difficult or easy is it to pull off a hoax now?
Any kind of effects company, effects shop worth its salt, we've all done a Bigfoot or an ape. They're so...
And just a message to Matt and Roy, man, miss you guys. Be good to connect with you again, especially now that I'm working on the film, The Question of Bigfoot. These guys are awesome.
There's so many out there. They're full scale, they're 8 feet tall, and they're completely self-contained.
The other thing too is to get somebody out there in one of these things. It's horrible. It's a horrible condition. You know, I mean, you're sitting there in like 2 inches of foam with hair on you. I mean, you're gonna drop dead.
Okay. Now that's the real big important point to the whole, you know, frat boys wearing suits thing. It's really tough to do that. You have to figure out where you're going to be. I mean, sure, if you're, you know, in a major park and a major trail system, you can, on the weekend, you can plan and snicker and giggle and hide and go do a thing there. But a lot of times these films and things are shot, they're shot, you know, I remember the one where there's something going across sort of the mountaintop and it's so far away, you can tell it's massive. There's nobody in their right mind, or even crazy for that matter, that's going to go all the way on the hopes and chances in a remote stretch of trail that if they walk along the ridge of a mountaintop in the snow, making themselves look like they're 8 feet tall, you know, that's you really got to think about what it. I'm not backpedaling, but to qualify, yes, it's really easy to fake, but is it? Technically, it is, but it's a hell of a lot of work for somebody.
So hoaxing takes some serious effort. And I have no interest in hanging around campgrounds in a claustrophobic suit custom made at a cost of over $50,000. But track making is another matter. And Roy and Matt send me home with a set of my very own Sasquatch boots.
Better thing to do here would be to try and get 7-foot strides so I can show the strides. There's just no way I can do a 7-foot stride carrying all this weight on my feet.
Yeah, that's very true. Like I can wear printmakers like that, but I can't imitate the stride.
And you know, do a jump. I'm lucky to get 3 or 4 here. So what I'll do is I'll walk along the lake, up over this dock, off that way.
See, what's that stride? 3.5 feet at best. You know, the strides are often seen at being 6 feet, even 8 feet. 3.5 feet, you know, that's just me. It's easy.
Whoa, shows you got to really put some thought into how to make something like this work. It's not so easy. Everybody thinks, oh yeah, you can just make some fake tracks. Oops, keeps falling off.
Just to get to this stage has cost me over $1,000. Perpetrating a hoax.
So there you go. That's the other side of this. That cost me $1,000 just to get those track makers, and they're not even all that useful to me. It was very difficult to work with. $1,000. What frat kid, you know? And I know I'm picking on the frat boys, but or anybody, you know, what Bigfoot freak is, or just someone who wants to hoax is going to spend that kind of money, and that's just to get those little boots, which I still have, by the way.
Is just not as easy as it sounds. Back in Ontario, I'm using my own set of Sasquatch boots to make fake tracks I can cast and take to Bigfoot researchers in an effort to see how easy it is or isn't to pull off a hoax.
Okay, so that makes it look like I was trying to film the set of tracks that I found. If there's ever an issue with people who have claims of tracks and seeing Bigfoot, it's that if they have footage, you know, where's the before and after clips? Where's the messy footage? Like in the Roger Patterson film, they never show the 30 seconds leading up to the Bigfoot. It's good to see what led up to something to establish the proof of it.
Right, which we did show. If you watch the episode Willow Creek, of our Bigfoot, where I paid for and acquired the rights to show the footage. I wanted to show the footage before the famous part. And sure enough, it is exactly what it should be if someone was actually going through what they were supposedly going through, Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson. With Todd Standing, you know, that was my argument with him at the time, was where's the footage leading up? And he had lots of excuses and reasons and excuses as to why he didn't have any lead-up footage. And I'm not here to argue or debate that point. I just want to see the lead-up footage and the fall. Because if I'm filming something, like if I'm out there and I'm filming a cougar, let's say, mountain lion, the four-legged kind of cougar, then you know, I will have all of the jumbled lead-up footage when I pressed record and started filming that mountain lion. And also afterwards, because it's going to go on, I'll hold that shot for as long as I can. And if you have that footage and you've shot something, then that helps to establish the truth of the matter.
I'm not attempting to ruin anyone's reputation or even make a mockery of the subject matter. What I want is to get to the answer to my question, which is, concerning all of the evidence of Sasquatch in existence today, how easy is it or isn't it to fake?
Unfortunately, I got rid of all of my casting equipment. Now I got to buy it all over again because I'm doing this new film. That was dumb.
At this point, my own tally is 4 full days of my time and over $3,000, including airfare. And I'm a long way from pulling off my hoax.
The first set of tracks you guys gave me, I have some things to tell you about with that. I did them in the snow, and one track kind of picked up the crystals in the snow, and then the other one got the toes really nicely. But now I'm coming to you guys, the pros, and saying, let's do this for real now.
What I think we should do, you know, basically we resculpt the foot in clay, and we'll go and we'll try to make the occipital ridges and stuff a little bit closer. We had talked about that too.
Mm-hmm. A big one is how to do the track set. And when I say that, I mean the actual distancing of the walk. We don't have to put them on my feet.
Okay.
So that might help.
Or we can make your legs longer.
And then what I'd like to do this time, instead of making them out of fiberglass, is make them out of a really tough urethane.
It'll only take Roy and Matt a day to make the next set of track makers. So I'll leave them to it. And I'll head back to Sonya and Randy in Western Canada.
Once again, for me to perpetrate my, hoax, it was thousands of dollars and flights and trips and time. So, a bunch of kids got in a monkey suit and went out into the bush and perpetrated a hoax. But did they? Did they really? Because, again, there's the effort and there's the cost and the time.
Sonya's connection to the natural world, including Sasquatch, is personal, spiritual, and intimate. She doesn't use trail cams, overhead drones, or heat sensor cameras. She has a highly tuned skill set that I have never acquired, that of meditation. After building her ceremonial spot in the middle of the forest with candles and feathers, she then asks me to have time alone for about an hour. It takes time to calm the soul and the spirit, and only once she feels right will she then invite me to take part in a pointed and focused period of meditation.
And this was going to be tricky for me because at this time I wasn't very experienced in meditating. So very busy mind I have. And meditation to me, I do the Wim Hof breathing. That can help a lot. And I go and I sit at the base of trees. That helps a lot. But otherwise meditation it takes me a while. That's why I embarked upon the whole ceremonial experience for a year of filming the series Beyond Survival. Because I did, 100 different ceremonies, and it was the ayahuasca and the San Pedro and plant medicines that kind of broke through me and my stubbornness, if you will. All right, let's keep watching.
Sonya and I are in the forest to practice some meditation. Now, it's not just basic, normal meditation for personal benefit, although it is good for that, but it's also meditation focused on connecting to Bigfoot, whatever else is out here.
So as you know, meditation is just a quieting.
Interesting little line there, and whatever else is out here. And that is the next level of all of this. I mean, I'll just say it. If it turns out that Sasquatch are real, what else is there?
Stilling of the mind. And the reason for that is this: you have a system in your body that never shuts down, which is your nervous system. So even while you sleep, you dream. So the idea of meditation is to quiet yourself into a position where that system in your body gets to relax. But in this endeavor, what we want to do is quiet it down and still ourselves so that we can listen. Deep breath.
Now, I'm pretty sure that Sonya and I did this in Texas when we were filming with Jeff Stewart. I think we did it there, but then we just realized that this storyline and working with Sonya and then meeting her again in British Columbia played out better here. It didn't matter. We didn't have to go into, oh, and by the way, we're here. Because this is about connecting spiritually and this meditative process.
And let it out with your mouth.
Until now, I've considered my time in the forest to be meditation enough. But Sonya's methods are far more focused. To connect to the Sasquatch on their terms, it may be that instead of invasive trail cams and whooping in the dark or banging on trees, what's needed is to turn down my own volume, give them a sense of grace and privacy, and approach them indirectly so as not to have them feel invaded. Randy and Sonya are close to the left side of the Sasquatch scale, rejecting categorically the Gigantopithecus or big ape theories. They feel that while trail cams make you feel proactive, they most often lead to nothing. Their method is to connect emotionally, spiritually, and energetically to the species called Sasquatch.
And that's the interesting thing is, when you're connecting with different people, if you utter the wrong statement or phrase like, oh, I want to put up 25 trail cams, you scare away people that work on a different level. And if you say, oh, I want to meditate and I want to experience telepathy with them, then you scare away a certain group of people that are not into that. And so for me, I always go on the terms of the person I'm with, and that is good enough for me.
And they have a point. No one has a single definitive, indisputable trail cam shot yet. And there are hundreds of thousands of them out there on trees right now. I'm willing to try anything on this road to first contact.
Okay, so here's the deal.
I just want to point out here, there's so much bad reality television. You guys already, if you know me, you know I hate reality television. And I'm very critical of it. And certainly in the world of Bigfoot, such as, Bigfoot Expeditions or Expedition Bigfoot. It's just so, and Finding Bigfoot, certainly, so much is just crafted and faked and set up outside of parking lots. And I will not work that way. I can only film if I'm doing it as if I'm a documentary filmmaker, which I am, as if I'm David Attenborough. I'm there to be a filmmaker in a documentive sense. And if it is nonsense, I show it. If it's compelling, I show it. But the whole business of the reality television shows that I know some of you like, and that's okay if you find it entertaining. Just be aware that it's a lot of dudes sitting around a table making shit up.
I'm to stay in this tent alone and quiet. No lights on. Everything turned off. And wait. And listen. Pay attention to the forest around me. Become very alert to all the nuances of my surroundings. And to invoke basically that other side of Bigfoot research. I stay out here alone, wait patiently, and using my sheer energy, see what I can bring in.
Some will say there's a lot, there is activity during rain and that. My understanding is that there's a less amount of activity that people experience when it's raining. And it was pouring here. So I think in the future, and all the expeditions I'm doing this year for the film The Question of Bigfoot, I'm going to be seeking fair weather. But I also want to stay out all night. That's really a key thing, because apparently they're nocturnal. Sure, they're seen during the day, but they're also apparently nocturnal. So being out all night, drinking some coffee, staying up, that's key, and I'm looking forward to that.
I'm in the mountains of Western Canada, attempting to elicit an interaction with whatever might be out in the forest that many people are calling Sasquatch.
Now, the reason why all of a sudden we're back in the mountains of British Columbia is because nothing happened that night. There actually something did happen during the meditation process, but I'm not going to tell you that story. I'm going to tell it in The Question of Bigfoot. So you're going to have to watch. You're going to have to join the campaign.
And I'm trying some new methods. Meditation is a way of connecting to the energies of the natural world. It's just as viable a research method as setting up trail cameras. And strangely enough, those that practice it seem to have a greater success at getting a response from whatever might be out in the woods than do those that are laying out trail cameras and DNA traps. As I search through the forest, I'm seeing again a familiar scene that I find unique, perplexing, and thought-provoking. Old cut stumps from logging days, covered with sticks and branches that could not have just fallen on them naturally.
So, what we're looking at here is there's all these, log trees from years and years ago, but every year people leave the area, something moves in and covers these logs, these stumps with this.
What's really strange is that I found this very same phenomenon in southern Oregon and northern California. They're not random fallen twigs. They're clearly placed on the stumps in an orderly fashion. At least one person has commented that it's like something or someone in the forest is lamenting the cutting of the trees and is paying homage to them, or trying to cover them up like a spiritual bandage.
And they are random enough that they do not seem done by humans or teenagers or adolescents sort of thing. It's hard, because you experience some of these things, you see some of these things, and to try to explain them, you really end up landing on, you just got to be there. You got to be there and see this shit. Because, you watching it on some video footage and saying, a bunch of kids put that there. Easy for you to say. You got to be there and look at them, because when you're there and you're looking at stuff like that, you go, holy crap, because a lot of times where these things are not in accessible areas to humans. You'd have to be out of your mind to go and get into these remote areas and do things like this. For what reason? Because somewhere along the mid-2000s, a series came on television that made finding Bigfoot a fun thing to do and famous, and people started hoaxing a lot. Not in these locations. They're way out there. And yeah.
This could easily be teenagers making a fort, kids making a fort. Even to the point where if the kids come back year after year, they add to it. Let's go up to our fort, Johnny. And they go up until they're too old and they don't care anymore.
Knowing the difference between kids making a fort and unexplainable structures in the forest is key. Attention must be paid to where these things happen, because so long as broken and bent trees and even massive human-like tracks are found where humans frequent, everything will be suspect.
Who's doing it? That's intriguing.
And I think that's the thing is, you don't have to go remote, apparently, to invoke an experience. But the problem with doing it where you're not remote is then you have a hard time believing that it's not just a hoax. So you got to go super remote, where you rule out the thought that a bunch of, and again, frat boys have gone up there to try and perpetrate a hoax, because you got to rule that out. Get to a place where it just doesn't make sense. No sense whatsoever for anybody to come this far and do this thing.
That becomes another better, more intriguing part of the puzzle, because that's not the kind of thing that humans, teenagers, kids do. We don't do it like that. Even when we're mucking about, we've got to leave things symmetrical and lined up like we're building little houses. and the work is too extensive for little kids to do it, and too consistent for teenagers to do it. And every parent out there knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Our tendency is to model everything after our human minds. How would we survive in the forest? While searching for signs, Randy brings me to markings, and other than squirrels, I can't place them on any known animal.
So we've got all of this pull down of the bark on these trees here. Goes up the tree about 8 or 9 feet, and this, Randy explains, is their markings. They've stripped the bark off here, and as you go up the hill, about every 100 yards or so, the bark is stripped like that.
Now that's Randy's story on this, and I'm not here to deny him that story, but squirrels can definitely do that. I've watched them.
All the way up, just up into the hills there. I'm just looking for tracks as I walk along. I think I found a track. Right here.
Yeah, there you go.
You see? That's the right, that's not mine. Mine's right here. That's me. And then there's this guy right here. But it's like a right foot, and I can feel those toe holes.
This is part of tracking an elusive creature, trying to emulate its movements and its tracks. And in spite of the soft moss, I can't even come close to creating the depth in inches of the tracks I'm finding here.
So, you know, you get out here and the purpose is to interact with some phenomenon that certain individuals will say they've seen and exist. And you do whoops and rock clacking and tree knocking and look for tree breaks and structures and so on. And then you hear, woo, or something like that. And way off in the distance, raven or Bigfoot. You can't know until you see it.
Employing the various methods I've been taught while out researching Bigfoot, I continue on.
Apparently I don't know my own strength.
I'm not big on the tree knocking thing. As you dig deeper into this phenomenon, you know, it seems to be a red herring. Try to walk along and just grab a stick and hit a tree and make it go knock, 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 like it'd be really loud. It's damn near impossible. You gotta have the perfect tree and the perfect branch. It seems more likely, and I'll give Todd the credit for this, Todd Standing, that they're doing something, you know, something, because they got big heads apparently, right? That they're doing something to make the sound that sounds like a tree knock, but it's a form of communication. And, but that it might not be picking up a branch and hitting a tree. That's what we need to do to make that sound, but perhaps they don't.
When I was 100 or a couple hundred yards that way, it sounded like rocks being clacked together. It's not, it's a red squirrel.
You know, that's talking with the animals.
That got him confused. So you see the different sounds that you hear might be a squirrel or a bird of some sort. And if you're far enough away and it echoes or it cuts through the trees, you end up hearing something else, like rocks clacking. And Bigfoot, let's call them enthusiasts, as a whole group, as a large group of individuals, have a bit of a conundrum. I mean, there's thousands of tracks that are held by experts to be the real deal, unable to have been faked. There's thousands of sightings and anecdotal references of verbalizations and rock throwings and hooping and tree knocking and all that sort of stuff. It goes on and on. Yet popular culture and mass opinion doesn't accept any of that. So it's really quite a problem for the enthusiasts of this subject matter as a whole. Only time is going to answer this question.
And so it's time for me to hook back up with my special effects designers at Soda Productions to take my fake track making to the next level.
Next stage.
See you.
So, talk to me.
We got these, we got them poured up. They've been sitting up for a couple of hours. So we're gonna pop these out of the mold to give you the feet. We've attached them to drywall stilts to give you a parallelogram like a real step. These attach onto here. They telescope down. You can actually wear them and walk in them.
And this is a urethane called Fast Flex, and that's castable urethane, and it kind of feels like a tire when it's completely cured.
Okay.
Dermal skin ridges, movement of toes, and length of stride are all considered this time. And these track makers were actually modeled after Roy's own set of what are supposed to be real tracks cast in Washington years ago. It's time to take my hoaxing to the next level. I have the track makers. Now I need to make and subsequently cast with plaster my fake tracks. My current bill, by the way, is now approaching $10,000 in costs. And that's with Roy giving me a deal out of sheer interest.
Good thing Discovery Channel was paying the bill, eh?
Hoaxing is indeed no simple matter. I have to show pictures of the measurements and pay attention to getting some quality castings. As good as I'm getting at doing this, I still blew it on the first few attempts, until finally, I had my prize, albeit fake, track. But now comes the litmus test. Can I present all of this to Jeff Meldrum and John Bindernagle, two of the most knowledgeable people on the planet when it comes to Bigfoot tracks and biology?
And also, yes, John Bindernagle, wonderful man, and also rest in peace.
And have them spot the fake. Do these accredited professionals face controversy in their fields? You bet they do. But they remain undaunted, and with the amount of data they're aware of, there are no doubts in their minds of the creature's existence. Jeff and John are on the extreme left side of the scale, convinced that we are dealing with an upright walking ape, or perhaps Gigantopithecus. And their knowledge level of detail on everything from foot morphology, including skin dermal ridges, to hair DNA, is impressive to say the least.
Here was a hoax of the day.
These are hoaxes?
These are hoaxes.
Wow.
So here, you can actually see the person has used their hand, and in trying to impress the soil, without excavating, what they do is they press in here, it causes the soil to hump up. And then here they're just using their fingers. I mean, these are so clearly finger imprints.
Just as it becomes easy for a wildlife biologist to know the difference between a black bear track and a grizzly bear track, many of the same field techniques are used to flesh out the fake Bigfoot tracks from the real ones. As Jeff points out all of the various tracks, I get to see a piece of Sasquatch history.
And what are these here?
These are just some replicas. These are from the Patterson-Gimlin film site, actually. So this is the tracks of Patty. These were cast by Roger Patterson. This is one of the two originals. Those are still excellent examples of presumably a female Sasquatch.
To keep my ruse as real as possible, I've also brought along 3 other castings, which are supposedly real and actual Bigfoot tracks, including my own from Clem 2, British Columbia.
I'm just sort of bringing them to you two gentlemen.
Sure.
And saying, okay, well, now let's take a look at these.
All right.
So these here were in the Clem 2 area out on Clem 2 Lake in the sand. They happened overnight while I was out there alone, and they were 40 yards apart.
So looking at this, I would assume this is the track, and here's the ball, and the indication of the arch, and then big toe, and then the smaller lateral toes. It's actually very similar to a human. And of course the size, you're not ruling out a human by tremendous size proportions.
I wanted to argue about those casts because I was there. But for now, on to the sting.
I looked at these striations here. Is that what you call dermal ridging?
That could well be. Maybe some down here. It's pretty faint. Yeah, in fact, that's pretty good. The detail is actually pretty interesting. The toe stems are quite visible. I was talking earlier about the significance of the breadth to length ratios, and that breadth is quite compelling. These teardrop-shaped toe pads are very natural looking. I mean, it bears a striking resemblance here to this footprint.
At first, and I believe it was out of courtesy and good manners for my benefit, I seemed to have them fooled. But then, giving in to his more scientific and critical thinking, Jeff notices something too coincidental to ignore.
You know, and this is one thing that does sometimes give me pause. This is a very widely known track.
Yeah, true.
The more I talk about these things, the easier it is for someone to get a hold of a copy like this and use it either as a pattern, either directly, or as a pattern to make a fabrication. This one actually looks a lot like this track, except it seems to be a bit broader, and that could just be some of the deformation in the snow and the casting process after. But even that very distinctive teardropped toe, which is quite similar to this example here. Teardrop toe.
Would you say, yeah, this is suspect on any of these?
Well, I wouldn't place a lot of value on these, quite honestly, because I'm pretty sure that's human. So I would set those aside.
Okay.
These are very interesting to me, and I would want to look at them further to eliminate conclusively that possibility that a hoaxer was using some other source of inspiration to come up with a believable footprint.
This guy here, that's exactly what this is. This is a fake based on this.
Oh, really?
Someone who has that kind of stuff. But you spotted it.
Yeah.
You know who made this? A Hollywood special effects guy with a passion for hoaxing.
Well, that's sad.
It's sad, but watching you put these three tracks together going, these are really close. And I could see your brain scratching, and these are really close. To me, I think points more to the credibility of you guys to be able to actually pick this stuff out and decipher what is real from what's fake. One of the throwback debates is, oh, they're all hoaxes. And what I'm...
And that's really it there with Jeff and John, is Jeff is so familiar with the nuances, the dermal ridges and patterns of this and patterns of that, bone structure and so on. That you know, like a detective, like an FBI agent, he can spot it. He can spot things that is like, okay, you know, it's still suspect. As opposed to what happens so often with a lot of these Bigfoot researchers is, oh no, that's got to be. It is. It absolutely is. And you get a lot of that. This is definitely a Bigfoot track. And I love the fact that Jeff Meldrum is not in that category where everything is Bigfoot. He's not going to, you know, lay his reputation on the line for something he's not absolutely convinced in. And that's the way you have to be if you're going to approach this scientifically.
What I'm trying to say is, some may be,
sure,
but there are ways to very quickly and sometimes to determine which ones are hoaxes.
Sure. Cool.
So, can we 3D analyze this one?
Sure, yeah.
Just this one.
Yeah.
So did I fool the experts? Let's call it a tie. I played my hand pretty lightly after all. But to their credit, they weren't ready to say anything definitively. The sheer courage of Jeff and John to hold fast in their research is incredible, given the fact that Bigfoot still equals professional suicide. I'm quite certain they're hoping for the day of vindication, when scientifically they can stand back and say, we told you so. Leaving the fakes behind, we'll take one of the real tracks to the 3D lab where it can be scanned, because as the hoaxers become more sophisticated, so too do the track specialists.
And that's the thing, you know, just these varying and various scientists, it's kind of a bit of a professional suicide to even mention this stuff, you know?
Change battery.
Hey everyone, allow me to interrupt myself. I don't really like hawking merchandise and swag, but you guys do ask all the time where you can get certain items. For example, check this out, Hennessy hammock. I put a lot of time and effort into designing this hammock with Hennessy. It's their top hammock. It's an amazing, beautiful, comfortable hammock to enjoy for all of your adventures out there, so just check it out. It's got a full-size tarp, which is a big thing for me. It's got insulation, and I love it. So I've got the Hennessy hammocks. Of course, for years I've been in a phenomenal relationship with Hella of Norway, Hella Knives. And this is our signature knife, of course, the Tamagami. These knives are handmade. In fact, I've been there to this very ancient factory where I don't know how many, it's well over 100 years that they've been operating, and every single handle is handmade. All of the grinding, everything is done by hand. And these knives are absolutely beautiful. I also now have a brand new relationship, and you will see these items, new forging tools that I'm designing with LT Wright Knives out of Ohio. And also, Chef Paul Rogalski of Wild Harvest has the signature Chef Paul Rogalski kitchen knife collection. Those are a big thrill to me, to have these beautiful items that we spent years designing, and I still have them available for you. However, if you want to go more the route of just enjoying the Survivorman legacy, if you will, then of course, go to my website, lestroud.ca, go to the shop page. Right there, you've got everything. All the swag, all the merch, such as my manual on survival. This is if you want to get into survival. This book is meant to be a way to walk you through step by step, because I deal a lot more with concepts than I do with specifics, because that's really important. Once you understand the concepts of fire by friction, for example, you can do it depending on where you are, because I can't give you the advice on how to do it here in Canada and hope that it's also going to work down in the jungle. Things are different. So I've always been very proud of this book, Survive. So that is my survival manual. Also, if you weren't aware, I've got the book Will to Live. I wrote this book well, it's kind of for a lot of fun. I took my 10 favorite survival stories, such as Chris McCandless Into the Wild or the Robertson family and the life raft, and I basically dissect them with this book. I tear apart the story, I go through everything, and I even give them a little bit of a grade on how I thought they did. So I really enjoyed writing this book. It's a real easy read, it's a fast read, but I think there's a lot of insight there for you into all of these different examples of people who have either survived or perished. Speaking of books, so honored, so thrilled, so proud that Wild Outside, my first children's book, has won the Yellow Cedar Award, Best Nonfiction Children's Book in Canada for ages 7 to 14. I tell stories from Survivorman, lessons learned during those expeditions and adventures, and there are even activities they can do in the out of doors. So there you go. My new book, my children's book, Wild Outside, Around the World with Survivorman, has just won the Yellow Cedar Award, and I'm up for another award yet. And in keeping with stuff that's going on right now, we are also up for an award for our Season 1 recipe book from the series Wild Harvest. And if you've never caught the series Wild Harvest, check this out.
Hey Les!
Gotta watch some whales!
Oh my gosh! This perhaps is the most incredible kitchen scenario I've ever had.
Can you create a dish where the domestic ingredients don't overshadow the wild ingredients?
This dish is a showcase of how great these foraged ingredients come together.
It's the best when it's its own flavor. When you're making something with a wild edible, you're nailing it and not losing the wild flavor. Tell me that doesn't look awesome. 2 seasons right now, 26 episodes. In the United States, it's on PBS stations. You can also get it on this YouTube channel. In Canada, Cottage Life TV. In Sweden and Norway, on Matt Cannellan. It's on National Geographic. Asia, which includes China and India. So my Wild Harvest series is playing around the world now, and we, with every single season, create a recipe book based on the recipes that we show you in the actual shows themselves. So that's Wild Harvest. And of course, if you want the DVD, you can get that on this website as well, lestroud.ca. And let's not forget too, that I'm a musician. The CDs themselves are available on the website. The next release will be the re-release of the Mother Earth album on vinyl. But go on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to music, or on my website. You can go to the shop page, you can pick up all of my CDs. So this is the last one. This is my 20th anniversary selection. Check it out. Every film I've ever made, 76 films in all of the Survivorman, Bigfoot, Beyond Survival, music documentaries, one-off films such as the award-winning La Loche about the school shooting up in Canada and a healing canoe trip, This is my 20th anniversary, 76 films. And people that have picked this up have raved about it. And I'm really proud that I can say I've got 20 years of anything, to be honest with you. That's available for you as well on that Les Stroud shop page. Okay, that's me hawking my stuff. Back to the video.
The two noted scientists, Jeff Meldrum and John Bindernagle, are decidedly on the left side of my Bigfoot scale, preferring to focus on the existence of an upright walking ape or hominid. But back in Western Canada, Randy and Sonya focus on connecting to another world altogether. And with their friend Zoe, I'm pushing Randy's limits of exploration. Going out at night, especially alone, is normally out of the question. But that's where I'm most comfortable. And so I return and ask Randy to head out late in the day into his known hotspots for Sasquatch interaction.
This big structure here, all these logs, this goes back to about 2009, 2010, and the Bigfoot researcher in this area said he was here on one day, and then a couple of days later, it was put up. What's interesting about this particular structure is that the story that this researcher got many years ago from a native elder is that all these trees, the number of trees add up to the number of Bigfoot in this particular family, Bigfoot, and then in fact, often these structures represent the birthing of a baby. So this is...
Isn't that interesting that, you know, people are making this sort of connection of communication through numbers. So for example, my conjecture about, you know, two marbles and one being two bit Sasquatch and the other one representing me, you know, as a form of communication, and also with the poles and so on. And by the way, communicating through placing sticks in the forest is you know, an age-old tradition, a part of, you know, 1,000 different Aboriginal indigenous peoples throughout the world. So that it's not so strange to say, well, sticks placed this way or this many added up or angled that direction mean certain things. So conjecture though it might be, it's still interesting.
This traditional native lore that we're talking about now. So 1, 2, 3, 4 trees, 4 logs, all tied in tight together like that, 4 members of the family, and obviously perhaps a 5th member was born. You would think in a forest with millions of trees that you would see hundreds and hundreds of examples of structures like that, but you don't. And often you do see them built with trees that are right in the middle, that have been carried from somewhere else, that came from somewhere else, that do not have a root structure at the bottom. Perplexing.
If Sasquatch is real, it can only have accomplished what it has against all odds every minute of every day by being far more controlled, more precise in its tactics than we are equipped to accept.
And this is the thing, you know, it's easy as for a skeptic to write off. It's a bunch of trees that fell down. They fell down from the top. They fell down because of snow. They fell down because of wind. But you get in close and you examine and you find out this tree never grew here. You know, and too big, too twisted and set up in a way for a human to accomplish, or even 3 humans to accomplish. And anyway, middle of nowhere, and old, moss on it and so on. So that's what you do. You start adding up all of these different components to the story that is laid out in front of you, and that's when you start to get confused, and it gets kind of exciting.
So we're headed into a spot that this group has had some serious contact before, rocks being thrown at them on the trail, that kind of thing. I'm gonna lag behind and try and follow their trajectory of walking up ahead of me. I just want to be back up from them, just so I can have that kind of peace of being able to hear anything around me. One thing's for sure, for all researchers of any type of phenomenon in the wilderness, nighttime is a whole different game.
While using my thermal camera, I noticed something about 100 yards away watching us. In my opinion, it was likely a raccoon or a small bear, and it did disappear before I got a solid look at its form.
You want to freak yourself out? Get yourself one of those FLIR night cams like that where you can see heat. It's pretty freaky to look out in the wilderness at night and it's no, just tree. What? What was that? It's pretty cool and pretty freaky. I think in my new film, The Question of Bigfoot, I'm just going to start taking some chances. And when I, look through the FLIR cam and I see, something that's crawling around it there, I'm just going to walk towards it. I say that now, fully bravado while I'm sitting here with a glass of wine in my living room. But, I know the wilderness enough to know that I'll no problem doing that. And I am going to do that when I see stuff, not in an antagonistic kind of way, just there's something there, I'm going to walk towards it.
One of the most accurate descriptive terms I have heard that may apply to Sasquatch, if they do indeed exist, is curiously afraid.
And I think that's what I will end up being, is curiously afraid.
Hear that?
What did you hear, Randy?
I hear something behind us.
Yeah,
where we came from.
Behind you, Zoe.
And I think that's something else I'll really try out that I did not do this time around while making this series, and that is incorporating music into my time out in nature overnight.
Finally, after hours, we hear something I've only ever heard once before, many years ago.
That was as real as it gets, that creepy, weird sound. Well, we're going to watch this, but that happened. And we actually did have it analyzed later, and it didn't come up as any known animal.
After years of experience in the bush, I have never heard a coyote or wolf sound like the howl we heard tonight. Here are 3 separate examples of actual coyote calls. And now, 3 wolf calls. And now, our own scream in the night. Our whole purpose out here was to hike in the dark and work at eliciting an interaction with something other than wolves and coyotes. This sound will be argued about by many.
That was intense.
I'm going back there for sure.
You guys have heard coyotes as well, I mean.
I've heard them all my life.
Yeah. And that call?
You know what that was? That was an imitation call.
You think it was something imitating a coyote?
Yeah, trying to. Yeah.
I always hear them very high-pitched, very yippy, and usually many of them together. Now, okay, let me ask you a question. What would be the best way for us to react right now?
I think one of Randy's calls.
Yeah?
Be nice.
I can't say what it was, but I'm not ready to say coyote or wolf. Every creature, including ourselves, is bound by two factors: that which we do by instinct and that which we can be taught to do. So was it an instinctual cry of a known species of wildlife? Or a learned method of communication from something as yet undiscovered by mainstream science? It was all we would hear this night.
What it was creepy.
Though we continued on in the dark.
Now, so with my filming and the difference in things that I'm doing, this is all at night. It's all very creepy. It's beautifully edited and so on. But it's a factual representation of what was going on. We were way out there. We were using a trail so we wouldn't get lost. Almost got lost coming back. But we used a trail to get way out into the remote area. And so that we didn't have to manufacture drama to bring you our experience of that evening. And just watching it now, it kind of gives me the creeps. It's intense. You know, I'm surprised I didn't talk about it, because that sound did not sound like it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards away. It sounded like it was about 75 to 80 yards away. The camera didn't really pick it up the way it actually sounded, because I remember, my memory anyway has it that it was much closer. That it was basically like right there on that hill kind of thing.
So whatever that screech was, that was strange.
I'll be replaying that one in my mind for a while. So tonight, the crew's all together in one spot, and I've chosen to come out a little bit more isolated from them, 150 yards away or so, and just so I could be out here on my own, and I'll let you know if anything happens.
As I camp off on my own in Randy's hotspot for Sasquatch, I get a little more than I bargained for.
So I got something outside the tent. It just woke me up. It was pushing around, moving around all over the tent. Probably a raccoon. And I can hear some big branches being broken far off.
What I failed to mention here is that the pushing came from above, at least 4 feet up on the top of the tent. Long, slow, gentle pushes down. Not very raccoon-like at all.
So whatever was right here is gone, I think. But I mean, I literally woke up. It was light. It was just pushing all around on the tent, just pushing.
This just doesn't make sense. They gotta wonder sometimes what I get myself into.
Perhaps a Sasquatch's understanding of the world, of their world, is so entrenched, they have no need to build civilizations upon it, work with fire, or invent the wheel. Perhaps they found their way to exist separate and apart from us, and they're sticking to it, both instinctually and through a strong sense of self-preservation. And violating that understanding would threaten the entire species with extinction, should we humans master their ways. They would be then, in fact, if they exist, the greatest survivalists of all. Now that science is making new discoveries all the time about our own past, about Neanderthals and the recent Denisovans, it would seem we are barely scratching the surface, and each new study of ancient DNA brings a fresh angle of interpretation of a whole new player in the Sasquatch drama. Is Sasquatch an ape, an alien, a hybrid species able to control the as yet unknown laws of the universe? Or here's a mind bender for you. Is Sasquatch another species of human? Instead of composing symphonies, one that focused on methods of survival we are only beginning to understand, the answer is still out there.
The answer to the question of Bigfoot. Well, there we go. That shriek will always freak me out, and the memory of it. And let's see what happens when I get out there again. All right, guys. See you on the next one.
Two, three.
They paved paradise with a parking lot, put up big hotels, boutiques, and swinging hot spots. Well, don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. Paved paradise with a parking lot. Hey farmer, put away your DDT now. Leave the spots on my apples, but give me the birds and the bees. Don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. Paved paradise with a parking lot. Paved paradise and put up a parking lot. till it's gone. Paved paradise with a parking lot. Paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Don't it always seem to go? Don't know what you've got till it's gone.